Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be looking at bit crushing and sample rate reduction as a mixing slash creative tool. And it's something that's underused, and it can really kind of change a sound and make a sound good, especially on hi-hats and higher end material, or as like an interesting effect for a synth or something like that. There's a lot of bit crushers and sample rate reducers out there. Of course, there's like Redux and Ableton, and Bitwig has it as well. But the one that I really enjoy is the Kilohertz version called Bitcrush. And this is the plugin here. And we can make it big if we want to get crazy. But yeah, I can see it just fine this way. So what makes this plugin unique is, as opposed to Redux, you can actually type in the sample rate and the bit depth, and they have kind of corresponding values to real life. You can also adjust the dither amount and the quantize amount. It's kind of like a wet dry. Yeah, it's a wet dry mix of the quantization. So think of sample rate reduction as over time and bit depth as amplitude. So if we kind of reduce reduce the resolution of the audio over time per 100 seconds, we effectively reduce the sample rate and we introduce stair stepping or artifacts. And it sounds really cool, especially on hi-hats. And they're used quite a bit on hi-hats because the older machines didn't have the resolution that we have today. Like, we have like super duper high resolution. Those older machines did not, and they couldn't reproduce the higher frequencies of like a hi-hat or something like that. And that's a cool thing with this Bit Crusher plugin is the the values correspond to like real world values. So 16 bits, 5, and we can actually, go online and be like, hey, what are the specs of this particular piece of vintage gear? Well, it's 8 bits, and let's right click and be like, yeah, it operated at uh, around 12 kilohertz. No, not 172. 12 kHz. So 12 kilohertz, and what was this? 8 bits, 8-bit depth, and this is basically what it would make the thing sound like. And yeah, it's just a good tool to kind of do that, to get like that vintagey flavor. And also, what's really cool about this plugin, I'm jumping around a lot, but you can adjust the dither amount as well. A lot of plugins don't have the option for dither. Dither is basically you're adding noise so that there's no quantization errors in quotation marks, when you reduce the bit depth. Right. So think of this as like a band-aid. So once you get down to, once you reduce the bit depth, we can start to get some like squarification because the detail isn't there. Right. So the quiet parts of the audio kind of get cut off because they're so close to zero. They'll just go to zero. We'll have silence. So it sounds kind of like a gate. If we implement the dither, we will have some of those errors repaired at the expense of hearing noise. Right, so it's more of an authentic way of modeling these drum machines, and this quantize is kind of like a wet dry sort of thing. So a combination of bit depth reduction, or bit depth reduction, and bit rate reduction, we can get an interesting sound. Right, and it just sounds pretty cool with other elements. And this bitrate reduction, it's acting like a gate, so it's a mixing tool as well as a creative effect tool. We also have filters and things like that. So this one's really cool. This will add some dissonant aliasing. It actually sounds pretty cool. And then we can roll off the high end as well, because bringing down the sample rate can add some high end that might not be too pleasing. And a lot of the old machines, the digital to analog conversion, or DAC, would kind of roll off those sounds as well. So what this is, it's not so much a bit crusher. It's more of a tool to kind of create your own retro drum machine. And if you really wanted to get crazy, you would you would pitch all the samples up and then render it out and then pitch them down. And that's basically what they did. They would record the samples at a higher playback speed, so you could get more of those samples into memory, and then they would pitch them down afterwards, and you get an interesting sound. For those interested, look up. Oh man, he's a French producer, and he goes through the use of the SB 1200 and how they went about doing that, and everything was pitched up and recorded pitched up and then pitched down, and like it just sounded dirty. So the term of like dirtying up drums is achieved this way. And yeah, that's basic bit crushing and sample rate reduction as a creative slash mixing tool, because it is a mixing tool as well. It does some interesting things to the frequency and the dynamic. So it is a mixing tool. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.